Ultimate MK Podquest.
Look, I haven't had a lot of cause for applause.
Okay.
That wasn't even intentional, but okay. I haven't had a lot of cause for applause in the last, like, however long.
2 years?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, decade, but...
well, I mean, like, going to a concert or like a theater
I would always
production.
actually... I was really nervous going out in public, so I would just loudly knock my knees together.
Fuck.
What?
You're an idiot. Oh, man.
The one time I've ever been nervous enough to do something in public that my knees were actually hitting each other was going on the Aerosmith rock and roller coaster because I didn't want to go.
Oh, shit. That's a good roller coaster, too, man.
I spent most of it with my eyes closed.
In terms of, like...
And I know it's indoor and, like, the whole appeal is, like, this stuff you can see, and I just got none of that part of it.
Right. I think that's maybe... It's up there. It's definitely top 2 of, like, licensed Aerosmith experiences, right?
Is the other one the game where you shoot CDs?
Revolution X definitely would be... Midway Games classic Revolution X, probably number 1 still. And then maybe number 3 would be the Aerosmith songs that they used in the Dead or Alive games.
Man, Dead or Alive fucking balling out for the Aerosmith license.
Yeah. The guy, what's the guy's name? Itagaki, the guy in charge of the series who eventually got fired for being a creep. Big Aerosmith fan, so he wanted Aerosmith music in those games, and he got it.
Do you think Steven Tyler has played Dead or Alive?
I bet he has. I bet you could, there's probably video of it somewhere, like, because I remember like it being a thing that they were getting Aerosmith music.
Steven Tyler, Dead or Alive. I'm realizing now why that's not going to get me the search results that I want. It hadn't crossed my mind until literally right this second.
The Snopes article is inconclusive.
Video game. Top 10 Dead or Alive characters. Hang on.
Yeah.
Why is an NHL highlights video 4th in this search result for Steven Tyler Dead or Alive video game?
Wild. I don't know. I don't think there's any hockey players in Dead or Alive on the roster.
And then if you scroll down to the 8th result, it's a Tyler the Creator song.
Well, that should be number 1 for starters.
I disagree. I think it should have been the thing I was looking for. I think YouTube should know what I'm asking about.
Oh, you're on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, because you said we were talking about footage.
Aerosmith Dead or Alive games. I'm going to give this a spin on my end here.
Yeah, on Bing.
Over here on Bing.
This still is not helping. I'm getting mobile IMDb website credits for the soundtrack to Dead or Alive 4.
How old is the band Aerosmith?
Steven Tyler Aerosmith Agent Kids biography.
Okay. Maybe I think we're falling down a scary rabbit hole here.
Hold on. This might be a funny headline. Give me this. It's a 9-year-old r/music post, and if you're looking at Google, all it says, why does Steven Tyler sound different in the original ... And I really wanted to know what the conclusion of that particular question was going to be.
That's like that conspiracy theory that Avril Lavigne was replaced at some point by a lookalike, and everyone's like, she sounds different on her new albums. And it's like, well, maybe she just had some more vocal training.
She sounds just like Steven Tyler now.
It's wild.
What are we supposed to be talking about?
Speaking of music, I got my Raven CD in the mail. My $5 Raven music from the TV series CD, and that shit showed up shrink wrapped, brand fucking new. Cracking the case, but
what's it like owning an artifact?
It is a sealed copy. So I have a sealed CD, and you have you will. Has it arrived yet?
Oh hell no!
You're sealed.
I'll probably have it by like the end of the month. We don't all live in the United States.
Like it's even got the well, I've ordered stuff from Canada. It shows up pretty fast. You guys need to get your shit together.
That's just United States bias again. As of March 2nd, it's in Miami, Florida, so I'm actually blaming you for this.
Oh, your cassette tape is in Miami. You want me to go pick it up for you?
It would honestly probably be faster.
This fucking CD's got like the sticker with like the,
new age genre tag on it
and everything. It's got the new age genre price tag. But I'm talking about like the thing at the top that keeps it sealed. You have to pull the tab, and it's got like the artist name and barcode on the top. Sonic Images.
So they put some of the drink tab into the case to like keep the disc fresh.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly?
Is that why you have to pull the tab out?
And it is the last remaining tab in existence. Corey,
Yeah,
you want to talk about some fucking Mortal Kombat comic books here?
I guess.
You guess. You don't seem too jazzed.
I have this history of comic books where it's either something that I will read in its entirety, as we've discussed, or I get like 2 issues, 3 issues into something. It's hard to keep up with comic books, and I just stop. So I don't have like the huge attachment to like the medium. And
Sure.
when I think about Mortal Kombat, something that I think is best experienced as what I would describe as being in motion. You know, I was curious to see what exactly a Mortal Kombat comic book looks like, but I did certainly have preferences for how I would want to, as a baseline, enjoy Mortal Kombat material.
Mm-hmm. And it's not this.
Not theoretically.
Well, I'm just going to ask you to keep an open mind as we dive through these.
Have I ever not kept an open mind?
This episode is going to be like an issue 0 almost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love it when books do that. Those are the good ones.
Well, that's the reason, if you remember, our very first MK Podquest episode was a primer on Mortal Kombat Conquest, and it was released as episode 0, a direct reference to the fact that comic books do this kind of shit all the time. That was my thinking. Like, episode 0, get people up to speed on what's going on, and then we can get into it. You know, I want to talk a little bit about this series ahead of time. I want to set up what the Malibu Mortal Kombat comic book series is, how it came to be, etc. And then we'll have a little discussion about issue 0, which doesn't really have a lot of content in it. How does that sound?
Yep.
All right. So this series was published by a comic book publisher that was active in the late 1980s and early 1990s called Malibu Comics. They were a competitor. They weren't, Marvel or DC, but they had a lot of imprints that they owned. They were publishing a lot of kind of like anime inspired stuff through their Eternity Comics imprint, like the Robotech 2, the Sentinel series. They were publishing like the Project A-ko anime adaptation, some Ninja High School stuff. Their main superhero line was called the Ultraverse, which Ultraforce was like their big superhero group. And like I guess their biggest character was a dude named Prime. You ever hear of Prime?
Not that one. I think there are a few other more prominent pop cultural primes. I was going to say this really feels like Malibu was like, we need to do pop cultural lingo Mad Libs, and we'll just name all of our shit that way.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, that was the 90s. That's what companies did. You ever hear of Shazam, formerly Captain Marvel? You ever hear the superhero Shazam?
Does he help me find the names of songs?
Yes.
I'm familiar with Shazam. He's the lightning bolt on the front?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Little Billy Batson turns into Shazam, which is basically
turns into
Magical
Big
Superman,
Shazam.
Right? Prime is literally Shazam. It's a 13-year-old boy who turns into a giant superpowered dude, but still has a 13-year-old boy's brain, which kind of feels like he'd probably be more of a villain than a hero, honestly. But I guess Prime was popular enough to get a video game on the Sega CD, like a side-scrolling beat-em-up or something it looked like.
I feel like they were dangerously close to calling something like Optimus Primus, which would have been copyright infringement over both Transformers and that band.
And the band Primus, yeah.
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 There's some era-appropriate humor for everybody. It's all I got.
Sometime in the 90s, Malibu Publishing branched out into video games and started publishing games as Malibu Interactive. They published some bangers such as Bassmasters Classic Pro Edition, the official video game for Three Ninjas Kick Back, and Evander Holyfield's Real Deal Boxing.
Is the Bassmaster Fishing Classic Pro Edition, if I got that right,
You cannot use the Dreamcast fishing controller with it, as far as I know.
Okay, my follow-up question is, were they releasing iterative versions like Street Fighter?
I think
was there
so.
a Turbo Edition, and then there was like...
and then the Pro Edition. Yeah.
Bassmaster Classic Alpha.
They add new fish to the roster every time you can
Right.
unlock. Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Although it does seem fucked up that I feel like the thing that would have kept the Dreamcast around if you're Sega, aside from I can't say that because I've never played one. So
aside from the public having better taste in electronics,
yeah. That if they made the Dreamcast fishing rod compatible with everything,
that'd be amazing.
including things not on the Dreamcast.
Well, here's the thing: there were third-party fishing controllers for the Dreamcast. Like Interact made one, and then they also made one for the PlayStation and PlayStation 2. So you actually could get a fishing rod for your PlayStation to play Bassmaster's Pro Classic Hyper Fighting or whatever. So so somebody took that technology and ran with it. And then when the Wii came out, I think they even had one for the Wii that you could like stick the Wiimote and nunchuck in. So the fishing controller lives on.
That's pretty sick.
Anyway, Malibu was doing fine in the 90s, and they were getting like some licensed stuff. I think they were publishing for Image also and things like that. When a writer, a guy named Charles Marshall, approached them, he had done some writing work for he had done some work for them in the past, and he approached them about like doing a Mortal Kombat comic because he's like, Mortal Kombat is kind of a phenomenon right now. Like, let's tap into this. These characters are cool. Let's do a comic book series about it. And the higher ups at Malibu were kind of like, no, see, we've got the license to Capcom's Street Fighter, and we're working on a Street Fighter comic book series, so we don't really want to like split the market, you know? So we're going to pass on the Mortal Kombat thing. Then the Street Fighter comic started getting released, and it sucked. It really fucking sucks, dude. The Malibu Street Fighter series is it's absolutely insane, and Capcom hated it and made them cancel the series.
It was that bad
after 3 issues.
How do you fuck it up that bad in 3 issues?
Corey, I own the Street Fighter the graphic novel. It's the Malibu collection of the 3 issues that they released with an epilogue written out what they wanted to do had they been allowed to make more issues. Now, there's a really good scene in it near the end of the 3rd issue, I think, where Zangief is literally pile driving a bear.
Yeah, it's pretty based.
And that's cool. But then there's another scene where I think Vega or Bison, maybe both of them, maybe all of the bosses are ganging up and literally scalp Ken, like cut his scalp off.
Yeah.
And then put that in a box in a car and then run that car into Ryu's house. And then he opens the box and just sees the scalp of his best friend.
Right.
And that's how the series ended.
Seems
kind of fucking Mortal Kombat, right?
Also just seems kind of needless.
Yeah.
I think
in the future, actually, if we ever have a gap in stuff to talk about, we have precedent. We've talked about Street Fighter before. I would kind of love to talk about that Street Fighter comic in more detail.
Yeah, man, I love doing shit that sucks.
Fuck you.
What? It was so bad it got canceled after 3 issues. You said it.
Yeah. We should. Yeah, I know, but it's worth talking about because it's just, it's like whatever. Anyway, so after the Street Fighter comic book failed, the company called Charles Marshall back, and they were like, yeah, let's do Mortal Kombat now. And since you kind of came to us with the idea, why don't you develop it? And I believe he wrote every single issue that they ever put out, this one guy.
So that's why they're reusing material.
He had a lot on his shoulders. So the Mortal Kombat comics were all published between, I think, 1994 and 1995. They came out before, like, the movie. They came out before the Jeff Roven novel. Actually, like, on the back of some of these issues, there's an advertisement for the home version of Mortal Kombat 2. Like, that's how early on this was. And then after a few years, after the mid-90s, Malibu, like all comic book companies in the 90s and video game publishers, started having financial problems, largely due to the fact that they were spending like $200,000 a month trying to break into the video game world and not having a lot of hits on their hands.
Right. Look, you can't all make Bassmaster I don't remember, fishing Classic Pro Edition, whatever the fuck. I don't know.
Hyper Bassmaster EX Plus Alpha.
Featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
Yeah, and Banjo and Kazooie from Banjo and Kazooie Nuts and Bolts.
New. But it's the Nintendo one. You know the one. Everybody knows the one. New Hyper Bass Fishing Master Comics EX Championship Edition.
Plus Alpha.
3D.
Upper.
Lower. Hey man, we're gonna do some sports betting. Are you gonna take the upper or the lower?
Anyway, wherever the fuck we were before that, they needed a bailout, and so DC started sniffing around to acquire them, and then Marvel realized that if DC acquired Malibu had enough market share in comics that DC would like be way ahead in market share. So they it was 90s Marvel. They were all about blowing huge sums of money in an effort to tank the comic book industry, which they kind of successfully did. They came in and absorbed Malibu Comic, and then they just kind of like got rid of the Ultraverse and all of the licensed stuff. I want to say there was a Virtua Fighter comic. There's one issue of a Virtua Fighter comic that was advertised in Malibu books, but published by Marvel, and I want to say that might have been something that just happened in the transition. It was supposed to be a Malibu book, but then Marvel ended up putting it out after the acquisition. Anyway, that's a story of Malibu Comics as far as I feel like telling it.
Sounds like we got ripped off from the MCU here.
So there are...
Malibu Cinematic...
Yeah, the Malibu Cinematic Universe.
The Malibu... it's the...
Prime... Hold on. We're going to have Prime versus Scorpion versus the Star. They had the Star Trek license. They were making Deep Space Nine comics
versus Data.
And don't forget Steve Gerber and Mike Ploog's Sludge.
Every word you just said was like it gradually got worse.
Or maybe some of these Ozzy Osbourne, Santana, Metallica, and Lita Ford comics.
Like Carlos Santana?
Yes.
In a comic
that they
book?
released under their Rocket Comics imprint, and that is Rock-It COMIX. So you know it's extreme and cool.
I think they should have made a Dave Matthews Band comic
called Don't Drink the Comic.
I don't know. I just think it's funny to say Dave Matthews. I don't know enough about Dave Matthews Band to make the joke continue. But
one last, yeah. Well, he doesn't garner talking about.
So we'll stop.
One last bit of detail. This is for Paul and Dominic. The Mortal Kombat comics were published in Australia by Triel Comics, KOMIX. Anyway, the series was broken down into like a number of miniseries. Right. Here's kind of the breakdown of what they released under the Mortal Kombat banner. We had the first story arc, Mortal Kombat Blood and Thunder, which is 6 issues and kind of started focused around the events of the first Mortal Kombat game and then just sort of went off the rails after that. Then there was a 3-issue miniseries called Goro, Prince of Pain.
They do call him that several times.
Oh, sure. Every chance they get. And then the storyline for Blood and Thunder and Prince of Pain wrapped up in the first annual, which was called Mortal Kombat Tournament Edition.
Capcom is gonna fucking sue, man.
Do you know there's a Mortal Kombat game called Mortal Kombat Tournament Edition?
No, I didn't know that. That's why I made the joke I just made. It's another egg on my face.
Well, it's a Game Boy Advance game, so it came out some time later. And it's actually it's the same as their Deadly Alliance Game Boy Advance game, but with the other half of the roster. It's almost like they had to split it into 2 games. Anyway, it's pretty good. Bro,
why does this game have... I just wasn't expecting it to... Oh, wait, no, that's a DeviantArt post. Okay. No, I should explain that. I guess, that nobody else can see my phone but me. It was all like very detailed pixel art, and I was surprised because the Game Boy Advance is small. So I was like, oh, wow, how did they do that? And then that's just not what happens. And also, they were all naked. Haha, DeviantArt. That's not true.
After that first chunk of comics. They did another main miniseries, a 6-issue series called Mortal Kombat Battle Wave, and that introduced characters from Mortal Kombat 2. That was accompanied by a 2-issue miniseries following Sonya Jax and the U.S. Special Forces, and a 3-issue miniseries called Mortal Kombat Raiden and Kano.
Why would you want that?
Who knows, man? And then I think then the second annual Tournament Edition 2 wraps up that chapter of the story. But we also get 3 character special one-shots.
Sang gets one.
Sang doesn't get one.
Sang doesn't get one, which was the big controversy during the off season, like the fucking Bachelor. And then,
if they're gonna give Sang one, they had to give Sing one also, and they just couldn't fit into the publishing schedule.
And then Hydro gets one, and then the last one is just Hydro again.
And then there's one of just Grum eating ice cream.
Oh yeah, remember that? Good times.
We'll talk about all of those people later. We got 3 character one-shots, one for Baraka, which I believe is kind of a lone wolf and cub inspired story where Baraka is protecting a baby.
Okay.
We get a Kitana and Melina special, which is basically what the Edenia episodes of Mortal Kombat Legacy are, like very, very strongly influenced, I think, by this one-shot in particular. And then I think the final issue that was published was a modern Kung Lao one-shot.
Okay.
And I think at that point they were really dipping into like computerized coloring and stuff like that too. That was one of the big things that Malibu kind of pioneered was computerized coloring for their books, which is why they said that Marvel was really after them for the acquisition.
Just to get like up on the tech, basically.
Yeah, they wanted that process. So, who knows? Anyway, I own all of these.
I don't, but I get to piggyback off of you owning all of these.
Yes, and I even have the Blood and Thunder graphic novel, like the trade paperback.
That's cool.
Which is apparently very hard to find. The copy I got super used from like an online comic book store. I didn't pay a crazy amount for it, but it is in very bad shape. Like when I got it, I had to re-glue the spine and everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it was just a cool find, and so I picked it up.
Nice.
So a lot of people really love these comic books. They are just peak 90s, right? They are peak
aggressively 90s.
They are very they're kind of made in that era too, when we had 2 Mortal Kombat games that were not super heavy on story, so like the stuff they were operating out of was like the text from the arcade game attract mode and the video game manuals and that kind of stuff. So we're like talking like old early canon with these things. So to build a story off of that, they had to get pretty inventive, right? They had to take things in weird directions. They kind of took like the whole quote unquote what if philosophy.
Yeah.
And just decided to like just spin off and just do something wacky and crazy with these Mortal Kombat characters, as we'll get into as we work our way through the series in general. But do you want to talk about issue 0 a little bit, just to give people a little bit of a taste of what they're in for? A taste of things to come, so to speak?
Sure. If you've never heard of Mortal Kombat, you could probably read issue 0 and learn something.
Maybe.
But if you have heard of Mortal Kombat, you could probably skim it.
I'm going to do a little fast Neil Nook, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Talk about the creators behind
Well, and
these
what I'll
stories.
say really quick is the Corey corner of this, as a joke, is you just get introduced to everybody.
Sure. Yeah. Hold on. Let me hit that first then.
Welcome to the Corey Corner.
If you've wanted to meet every Mortal Kombat character in the Malibu Comics Mortal Kombat series, I would recommend reading issue 0.
There you go.
Where you meet everybody.
Let's go over to the Neil Nook.
Welcome to the Neil Nook. It's Gucci.
So this issue 0 has kind of like 4 short vignettes in it. They were all written by Charles Marshall. They were all penciled by Patrick Rollo and colored by Scott Sava. Inks were done by Bobby Ray and Larry Welch. Lettering was done by Dave Lamphere and Patrick Osley. Got to credit the letterers.
I was not even joking about to say I'm glad we're the kind of show that gives credit to the letterers.
As someone with notoriously bad handwriting to the point where it was like fucking up my grades in drafting class, I admire people who can letter so much.
It communicates a lot.
It does. Anyway, that's it for the Neil Nook. I think we're good with the Corey Corner too. Let's just dive in a little deeper, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the first story is like 3 pages long. It's called Light and Darkness. And, they're smart because they start with Goro right away, right?
Yeah, Goro's kind of the guy.
Goro's big in these early issues.
Like physically, but also...
Yeah, 8 foot tall, 900 pounds of muscle or whatever shit they said. 7 wives. Do you think we'll meet his wives?
His bones are steel.
I should say the comics does not mention that Goro has 7 wives, but we all know Goro has 7 wives at this time, and I'm hoping they'll make an appearance eventually.
I'm sure they will. I feel like they'd be kind of blowing it to not. Everybody knows about Goro's 7 wives, right? So
yeah, it's common. I mean, if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, you know Goro has 7 wives.
Yeah, like it's. And like, there's lore reasons for why. Obviously, we don't need to explain those because everybody just kind of gets it already.
John Tobias has addressed it many times.
Yeah, it's just it's the big thing about Goro is
all those why. He's a wife. He's the ultimate wife.
He's the ultimate wife guy. It's just you can call him the Prince of Pain if you want, but I think he prefers ultimate wife guy.
He's the ultimate wife guy.
Ultimate wife guy was my favorite show on Spike TV.
I thought it was on MTV too. Ultimate Wife Guy Code.
I don't know that one. Oh shit! Okay. There was a show called I'm gonna guess there was a show called Ultimate Bro Code.
No, there was Girl Code and Guy Code.
Oh, I was close. I was on the right track.
Anyway. So Goro is just kind of hanging out in the subterranean realm of Kuatan, just trying to eat a big lizard, right?
Yeah.
And then when he catches the big lizard, he then gets mad at the big lizard for not being more of a challenge. But then he's also like, I'm Goro and nothing's a challenge for me.
And then Raiden's like, fuck you.
And then Raiden pops in. And this is Raiden with a Y. This is very important.
This is Jeff Meek Raiden.
Our Raiden, Raiden with a Y. That's what we specialize in.
It's our brand.
He just pops in and he's like, hey, Mortal Kombat's coming up. The invitations have been sent out. I'm going to give you one last chance to switch sides and fight for light. And Goro's like, I'm in the subterranean realm of Kuatan. I literally hate light.
Both literally and figuratively.
I'm all about the darkness.
You guys see that new Batman movie? It's so emo. I love that, said Goro to Raiden.
So then Raiden shoots him with lightning and says, fine, you're lost, dick, and kind of just pieces out.
Yeah.
The second story is called Combatants, and we are on the leaky boat this time, sailing to Shang Tsung's island. And this is kind of focusing in on Scorpion and Sub-Zero fighting on that boat. Notably, Scorpion has a spiked ball on a chain instead of a spear or a kunai.
Which does seem like a needless change, but sure, whatever.
Yeah, you can do more with that, right? Swing it around and hit people. But the one thing that you can't do with that is spear people and pull them towards you. I don't think we're ever going to see that classic Scorpion move in this entire comic book run because of the weapon change.
Yeah.
A little needless, but it is interesting. It's not, a snake-headed thing like in some versions.
That will remain nameless.
Anyway, we learn about how Sub-Zero killed Scorpion. I think it was 2 years prior to this, but now Scorpion is a Spectre and he's back to kill Sub-Zero. All standard classic origin stuff. Because he can't rest at the hollowed victory halls of his people.
Yeah, he can't go to I almost said Lin Kuei, which would have got me murdered in cold fucking blood.
I don't know, man. In this universe, that's not the Lin Kuei way.
No, he is, isn't he?
Oh, he is. I'm saying that murder in cold blood is not their way, as we'll learn in issue 3.
Yeah, they're more about hydration, right?
Yes, right.
But yeah, it's like Shirai Ryu Valhalla, basically, is what it sounds like.
And he's risking everything because he's like, if I die as a Spectre, I will just be lost in oblivion. But it's worth it to fuck you up, right? And then Sub-Zero basically just figures out, well, if you're going to fight me, then that means you have to be turning solid. So when you do that, I'm going to freeze you and I guess shatter you into pieces, although it's not really clear from the artwork. But then Scorpion just turns back into a wraith and he's like, oh, you got me, but I only have to get you one time, which all right, you're at least 0 for 2 so far, dude. Are you going to keep throwing yourself at this dude and getting defeated forever? But also, he just got frozen and destroyed and is not lost to oblivion. So what does it take to actually destroy his spirit?
I think you have to just hit him with the sickest burn imaginable.
We do get to see his skull face, which is pretty sick looking. I like the artwork for that.
One thing I want to give credit to right now is that the art, while being just astronomically 90s,
peak 90s,
it's so fucking cool though.
It is. The colors are really good in this. Things are bright, right?
Yeah.
The art's a lot of fun. Now we do get different artists depending on the books and stuff like that. I don't think it's consistent, but I think a lot of it, yeah, it is. It is that absolute peak 90s style. Obviously, there's going to be screenshots on the YouTube version if you haven't seen this. But that's basically that whole second story, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the third one is called Mortal Fear, and this is just, I guess, Shang Tsung reflecting on the upcoming tournament and all of the warriors. By the way, we haven't really mentioned this yet. It's really prominent in this story. Everyone refers to themselves in third person.
It's like it's as if it was written specifically with people who are generally unfamiliar with Mortal Kombat as like an onboarding process, but it's also not necessarily consistent with quote unquote the capital L lore. So it's a really weird choice.
It's shit like Scorpion saying to Sub-Zero, "You dare to cross Scorpion," and Sub-Zero's like, "You will die at the hands of Sub-Zero," and Raiden's like, "Raiden, the god of thunder, now fucks you up, Goro."
Some of it's cool just because, like, look, if my name was cool, right? Mm-hmm. Which it is.
Your name's pretty rad.
Yeah, like, but if my name was that cool,
if you were Corey the Storm Warrior,
yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Storm Warrior.
Yeah.
Is this anything? Hello?
It is now.
Yeah, so but there is a lot of that, which is odd, and just
right.
The plot is moving, but slowly.
Just kind of in circles.
Yeah, like if you want to watch a lot of similar sounding conversations happen while people look cool and scream their names at each other, I've got fantastic news. Mortal Kombat Issue 0.
Yeah. So this one is called Mortal Fear. I think I said that already. Just going to give a roster of everybody because we all know what their deal is. We've got Johnny Cage there.
He's America's biggest movie star.
Sonya Blade is there. Sub-Zero's there. Liu Kang is there. Scorpion is there. And Raiden is there, but with the asterisk that Raiden is not going to be fighting in the tournament because he's a god and can't. And then Shang Tsung's basically, I mean, he just was doing a roll call, and then he says, if they fight through all of my personal guards and defeat Goro, they still have to face Shang Tsung, talking about himself again, right?
Yeah, I wonder if culturally speaking in Outworld, it's just like a power move.
Maybe.
Like if you're of a certain pedigree, it's like
if you're at the level of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right, or Goldberg, or you know, these all these people that. Sorry, I watched Looney Tunes Back in Action recently. I got Goldberg in the brain.
Hell yeah!
But
that movie's. I love that movie, dude. I have not seen it in 10 years, but
I get it. We've all been there.
Yeah, I like Brendan Fraser. What do you want me to say?
We all do.
Where were we?
We were talking about what if, culturally speaking, it was cooler to have to say your name in Mortal Kombat.
I mean, that must be it. Well, let's track that as we go on. Yeah. Let's see how often it happens. Let's take a count. Yeah, right. The last little story in this issue 0 is called Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, and this is basically just everyone's motivations for being there, right?
Yeah. So really quick, this is probably going to come up as we continue discussing it, but they've replaced who the fuck is Lance?
We're not talking about Lance until next week.
Isn't he in 0? Am I wrong?
Does his face show up?
Okay,
I think
I'll save it. I'll
primarily gets introduced in episode 1, but I know what you're going to ask, and I just want to say when Jax was introduced, he didn't have metal arms. We'll talk about it next time.
What am I, a fake fan? I guess it makes it even funnier then that they decided to introduce a guy with a metal arm, and then they said, "What if he had 2?"
Right? Yeah, right.
What if in the future he had 2?
There's going to be some Big Theory Boys coming up.
I apologize for jumping the gun, as is tradition for me to do on this fucking show.
Nah, you're good. Anyway, we learned that Sonya is on the boat because she's hunting Kano, and that she feels the most home when she's hot on the trail of a wanted criminal. And she says that, like they say about the Royal Canadian Mounties, she always gets her man.
I'm so glad you said that. So, Neil, I want to have a quick conversation with you about this. I famously am from Canada.
Legendarily.
I live in Canada currently.
Big Canadian boys.
Yeah, I think I've said this, but my Twitter says as much. Like I'm in the capital of the country, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
The RCMP are sometimes around, you know? Like I see them, right?
Right.
Like,
the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Yeah, aka the Mounties.
Right. I'm just making sure I got the acronym right.
Yeah. Never once in my fucking life have I ever heard that about the Mounties.
I've heard it.
What?
Yeah, I've heard that.
What do you mean? From where?
That's like a saying. The Mounties always get their man.
Hold on.
It autofills if you start typing it in.
I know, but why?
In popular culture, the Mounties' motto is they always get their man, but it's actually a Hollywood creation.
Oh, okay. So I'm not. Oh no. So what you were worrying me about is that like I had missed some historical moment of some kind of cultural significance. But it came from a movie.
It's from an 1877 newspaper story in the Fort Benton, Montana Record, in which the reporter wrote, "They fetch their man every time." Hollywood producers read the story, jumped on the phrasing, and created the Mounties motto.
And first of all, don't get me wrong. It's a cool motto.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that as a Canadian in my, I guess I'm in my mid-20s now, which makes me feel old.
Bummer.
I know, right? Sucks, you know. I'm in the early part of my mid-20s. I had never heard that before, so I read that and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Look. Here's what I'll tell you. I've seen examples of the Mounties not getting their man.
I always get my man. Also good out there for your Tinder bios, everybody.
Hopping on whatever your app of choice, just like call me the Mounties because I always get my man. Or if you're just good friends with people and you haven't seen them in a while, you can go and just be like, "My man," and then it's
call me the Mounties because I got you. Anyway. We learned that Liu Kang has returned from America to represent the Order of the Light Temple and the super secret White Lotus Society, as they're always referred to as, even though they have sent another champion to the tournament. Two boys named Sing and Sang who can like Dragon Ball Fusion dance together to become Siang.
Is that the pronunciation for that?
Siang. That's what I'm going with. Okay. Open to corrections as always.
Yeah, I just wasn't 100% sure myself, which is why I hadn't said it up to this point.
Right. This will not be the most problematic name to say. Once we get to the
hang on, I'm gonna solve
there's a rough one.
really quick.
Sure.
That pronunciation guide says Siang. I'm gonna check another to make sure they're the same.
Okay.
And then if we're right, then cool. You know, I feel like we just may as well check.
Siang does make more sense because it's Sing and Sang.
Yeah.
So Siang that tracks.
This one sounds more like Siang, but I'm sure if we say Siang, we're not wrong.
I'm sure in Charles Marshall's head it was Siang.
Oh, no doubt. No shot. It was anything else. Okay.
So Sing and Sang are they're Shaolin monks. One of them's bald. One of them has kind of Liu Kang style green hair. Corey, what do they look like when they fuse together?
They look like okay, this is a funny thing to say. They look like if Savage Dragon was a guy.
Yeah, 100%, yes.
Big fucking green mohawk kind of thing. Yeah. Like a metallic looking face mask.
Yeah, like a gold face mask.
And then one golden glove because he's really good at baseball. One green glove because he loves to garden.
Yeah.
And then no shirt because they're for pussies. And then just some like green and pink, green and gold, sorry.
Yeah, green and gold.
Pants.
Like fight pants.
Like he's wearing a mask like you ever watch America's Best Dance Crew?
Oh yeah. A Jabberwocky mask?
Yeah, just to illustrate it, like it's got no defining features whatsoever other than being green.
just Iron Man's face plate on a face.
I suppose that is maybe a less ridiculous cultural touch point to use. God, we were all watching that show, huh?
Oh, ABDC? Hell yeah, we were.
Hosted by Mario Lopez, I think.
AC Slater himself, yeah. For anybody out there who is interested, you can, in fact, recreate a pretty accurate version of Siang in the Mortal Kombat Armageddon Creative Fighter mode. And yes, I will post a photo on Twitter and Instagram at MK Podquest on both. Sub-Zero's there. We learned that he is terrified of Scorpion, who has been hunting him as a wraith.
I think
that
that's
his
cool.
His throat burns whenever Scorpion is near.
Yeah, he gets heartburn when Scorpion shows up.
Yeah, that acid reflux that gets all the way up into like your throat. You know,
I really like that Sub-Zero's first defining character trait in this thing is he's scared that he fucked up.
Yeah, I'd like that too. It's a nice touch. This is a very different. We're going to assume, of course, that this is Baihan, right? Given that this is Mortal Kombat 1 era.
Right.
Very different characterization of Baihan than we're used to seeing, especially from early Mortal Kombat canon, right? Where he was just kind of ruthless and bloodthirsty. Johnny Cage is there because he wants to prove he's a real fighter. Kano is there. He just sort of got the invitation and accepted it. This wasn't like a plan to like lure Sonya Blade or anybody there. He's just like, I don't know. Yeah, I'll go fight some people, but I'm a little scared. And then Raiden is there to offer guidance, but he can't fight. That is the entire setup of the of the Mortal Kombat series. That's it. That's the end of issue 0.
I gotta admit, as like a primer for me, as a guy who had to read this on his phone because the viewer for the files that I got on my Microsoft Surface did not seem to want to work.
We'll talk about that later. There is a good one.
It's not a very interesting setup if you don't already care about this, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, you gotta be drinking the Kool-Aid already.
Yeah.
I don't see how this would do a good job of onboarding people, but also I wasn't there when it came out. Maybe I just missed the zeitgeist of, like, this is just what shit was like.
Yeah. So this was published, I want to say they were already like 4, maybe 5 episodes into Blood and Thunder, and the Goro Prince of Pain series had been out when they put out the 0 issue. So usually when they do that, it's because they're trying to give people an access point to jump into the series to continue the story forward, right?
Right.
And I'm not sure how good of a job it did either. Like, I think that just as somebody who likes Mortal Kombat, it's fine, but it was not a particularly exciting read. It was just a lot of like, okay, a few details are different than what we're used to. There's a little bit of new information here. The idea that Raiden is trying to like turn Goro was kind of cool, and Goro seems to be having like a big role in this series. Like, that's all fun, right? But yeah, there's nothing here, which is why I just wanted to tack this one on to this little primer episode for everybody.
Yeah, and coming up, we're gonna do the arc in 2 chunks.
Here's how I decided we should do this, Corey. Our next comic book episode will be Blood and Thunder issues 1 through 3. Now, there's a natural breakpoint there. We're going to need to jump over and check out Goro Prince of Pain.
Oh my God, did they pull some shit like that?
Well, the 2 ran concurrently, but I don't think it's for us to be like jumping back and forth, you know? But I think we're going to do Blood and Thunder 1 through 3, and then we're going to do Goro Prince of Pain 1 through 3. Then we'll finish off Blood and Thunder 4 through 6, and then talk about the annual tournament edition number 1, and maybe just give overall thoughts of where we're at with the comics at that point. But yeah, man, we got to split it up a little bit to get the full story and the full context for everything.
How could they do this to me?
That wraps it up for this little primer.
Sorry, not Primus. It's not Primus. If Primus, if you're about to sue us, please don't.
Yeah, please don't.
And Malibu Comics, if you're about to sue us, also please don't.
Well, they're Marvel Studios. We're playing with fire here.
People have famously called us the Ultraverse of Mortal Kombat podcast, and I just don't.
What's funny is that we're actually like a lamer version of Prime, where Corey turns into me. No?
I just didn't know where to go. I was like, that's a funny thing. I didn't know what to say.
No superpowers.
Actually,
just older and my joints hurt more.
And then if Neil tries it, all that happens is his hair turns blonde and nothing else changes.
It's kind of a downgrade for Corey when you think about it.
You could become a lot more youthful and powerful if you bleached your hair like I did.
Like a fucking Super Saiyan.
Yeah, I didn't tell anybody else this, but I'll just for the fans. I did this so I could feel like I'm going Super Saiyan all the time.
Well, you are, man.
Like that, you know?
Just like that.
I wanted to scream, and then I realized if I did it for real, it would be way too loud. So I like kind of panicked, and I was like, I need to do this quietly, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess, I don't know. Are we done? Should we get me out of this hole?
Yeah, let's wrap this one up. Check out Corey. Check out, they made another one, mkpodquest.com for all your information. Let's just get out of here.
I mean, we're not here to fuck spiders, are we?
We got another one of these to do.
Cheers.
At Mr. Corey Price
mate.
on Twitter, at Final Neil Retro on Instagram, ko-fi.com/mkpodquest.
Bye.